Hey, hey, hey. Welcome back to another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports. I'm Ryan, as always, with my man Wally here. Before we get started, I do want to remind you to hit that subscribe button. Find us on your favorite, I was going to say local, favorite podcast app. I guess it could be local. Or you can find us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or any other podcast app that you use. Wally, wow, man. So I've got four things here that I think we're going to cover on the show. Was the tweet more about the Cardinals being legit or the Astros being broken? Is Jordan covering for the offense or exposing it? Which is the fakest good team in the MLB right now, or at least out of a list of teams that we're going to do a little contender or pretender series? And as part of that, are the Pirates actually the surprise team we should start? My goodness, if I could talk tonight. Are the Pirates actually the surprise team we should start taking seriously in 2026? Wally, this was not the home series against the Cardinals that we were hoping for.
We talked last Sunday that we felt the Astros should go 4-2, at least to hold serve, hopefully 5-1. More disturbing than the losses is how they're losing. In most of these games, especially against the Cardinals, they're not competitive. They're making mistakes that losing team makes. When you want to take a look at why the Astros are losing games, aside from what we've talked about with the pitching and the walks, etc., is the things like with a man on in the 10th inning, you've got a man on first and third. You get a ball and get a softball hit, and Dustin Harris, who just got picked up from the White Sox, counts off the run, a potential run. You had Bryce Matthews, who gets put in to run for Paredes. I kind of understood why he was put in to run for Paredes, but it was at first base. I would not have done the move. I would have let Paredes stay there, because what happened is, aside from Matthews getting picked off, Matthews was also put in a position to play defense where there's the second time he'd ever played third base, and you hear it happen. You see it happen all the time, that if you get put out there, the ball's going to find you.
100% every time.
Matthews was on his heels. He let the ball play him rather than charging it as he should, because that ball was not hit all that hard. And then they just open up the floodgates.
Yeah. Yeah, this was the tale of three different types of losses for the Astros. For me, that was the thing that was more frustrating, was that it wasn't like they're getting beat the same way every game, and we can see a trend here necessarily, and you kind of look at it and figure out, hey, this is kind of what they've got to do to fix it. This was three different types of losses. You're getting buried early, and in second game, you're making that late push, but you just run out of time. You run out of outs. And then tonight's game or today's game, you catch a little bit of fire. You tie the game in the eighth, but then you have all of this. I don't know. I'm not going to necessarily say mistakes, but just things that just don't happen to keep you. That you just didn't keep the fire going into the extra innings to pull off the win. You Mason win, the no pun intended there, but local kid is the hero for St. Louis in late innings there. And it just it just seems like this team is finding new ways to lose a game.
Yeah, no, I agree. Um, they're playing with no confidence. The Can you hear me?
I got you.
Okay. They're playing with no confidence. They're playing like they're playing like a team that's trying to figure out a way to lose. The hitting started off so well, and we talked about it early on. Is can the hitting out hit? Basically, can the hitting out hit the pitching? The hitting was not great this series, and the Astros just don't have the pitching to step up when the bats aren't scoring 8 runs a game. They had a 6.75 ERA this series. Now against the Rockies, it was 3.33. Neither series did the bats really, unless you're named Jordan Alvarez. And Altuve had a really, really good game today. When you look at for the Cardinal series, Altuve hit 286, had 7 total bases. Alvarez hit 357 with 12 total bases, and Taylor Trammell hit 417. Now, Trammell is the one guy I can look and say he stepped up and he's played well. He,
Yeah.
he's outplayed what you thought he.
Yeah, and I think Joey Loperfido was another guy that you could add to that list before before he got hurt. Cam's doing his thing, but I don't know, man. What is Bryce Matthews doing on this team right now? I mean, obviously you've got no other choice. You're grabbing
Yeah, that
guys that aren't good enough for the Chicago freaking White Sox and putting them on your major league roster the next day. Um, it's brutal, and not to hit the whole injury bug cliche talking points again. It's a matter of fact. This team is beat up, but we keep going back to the fact that you still have a core, true heart of this lineup. That again, aside from mostly Jordan Alvarez, is pretty paltry.
yeah no they all of a sudden they've quit hitting, and when people say who would you bring up for Matthews, I'm pulling it up right now of who played tonight for for Sugarland. They're guys that you've got CJ Alexander. He can't play. He's a first baseman outfielders. Are you going to play Kevin Biggio? He's hitting 132 in
In AAA.
there you in
Yep.
AAA. Unruh, no one knows who Unruh is, and he's hitting 153. And Chance Biggers, I think it's Chance Biggers, hitting 232. This is at AAA.
Mhm.
Um, it's bad, and Chandler Rome just dropped an article in the Athletic which says, is in a make or break season, the optics are growing grim for Astros GM Dana Brown. The GM's primary job, is to field a major league roster. Okay, however
Yep.
you do it from the outside or you do it from the inside, and we've talked about it before. You've had two guys that have been drafted that have come up through the system that are major players right now. They're both hurt. You can also throw Jordan in there, but he wasn't drafted. He was picked up on a trade,
Mhm.
and it's just really, really bleak.
Yeah. Well, I mean, I think that when you're making the case for Dana Brown, he making the case for Dana Brown, he inherited a depleted farm system and somehow tried to manage a restock with some intriguing, guys. Spencer Arrighetti, Colton Gordon is another one. You've brought up the offensive guys that are just not doing anything. Twitter's crazy about Walker Janik because Yiner's sucking right now. Walker Janik's hitting, I don't know,
111.
110, 111 in double A
Yeah,
right now. I mean, it's
he's hitting an average IQ.
yeah. Oh man. I mean, Depth is the GM's responsibility, right? And the fact that this season right now, here in mid-April, is completely hinged on minor league call-ups. You've got waiver wire guys that you're putting on the major league roster in mid-April. This points to a severe lack of organizational depth, which was exactly the charge that Dana was given when he was brought here. And he's failed, and the blame ultimately shifts to the front office off-season roster construction. And that the fact that he had a couple of the big names that he had, and he felt like that was enough, they traded away Doobie to try to save some money, left yourself 10 million under the CBT, and tried to ride that limping horse into a season when you've got an owner who says the window is never closed. Um, I lay the majority of this at the feet of Dana Brown, because as far as Joe Espada goes, you can't you can't manage a hospital ward, man. I mean,
Oh, you can't train a
it's
jackass into be a racehorse. You just
yeah,
can't
yeah.
do it.
Yeah, yeah. I
You
mean,
just cannot do it.
you're playing poker with half a deck, and there's a lot of people calling for Joe Espada's head, and sure, there's some fundamental execution that is lacking in what's happening right now. It's you're leaving the entire village on the base paths every night. Runners in scoring position right now is absolutely abysmal. Um, I feel like some of his bullpen decisions are costing them winnable games. Um, but in the big picture of it, man, I mean, the guy's just he's out of bullets, dude. I
Yeah, no,
mean, he's
I
out of
agree.
bullets.
I agree. We can talk on the margins about what Espada's done. I would not have put I wouldn't have put Matthews in to run for him. I understand why he did it, but I
Mhm.
still wouldn't have done it.
Yep.
Um, This is this is not on Espada. I think uh, we talked a couple of shows ago about the lack of success of the draft choices that Dana has had. He did have Matthews has made it to the bigs. He's a fringe at best player, and he's a toolsy kind of guy. But until he gets a position and quits striking out, he's just going to be a 4A player.
Mhm.
Jake Bloss was included in the Kikuchi trade. They he's made some really really strange decisions on his trades. With the trade to bring, he traded away Chase Jaworski, who they had overpaid big time. We talked about it,
Mhm.
to bring in Sanchez. We Chase Jaworski. They paid him, second round money for an eighth round pick or something like that. And then you traded for Jesus Sanchez, who then you flip for Loperfido, who you just traded for getting to get Kikuchi. Now, if that all sounds absurd, it's because it is.
Yep.
It
Yep.
just is. And Dana is, you can make some excuses for Joe. Dana's got, the shade tree is losing all its leaves for Dana. There's no place for him to hide.
Yep. 100%. Yeah, it's pretty glaring that the situation that the Houston Astros are in, again, if you want to just really wrap it up in a pretty bow, is lack of
There's
organizational
nothing.
depth.
There's nothing pretty.
Yep. Yeah. Well.
Astros are on a fit. Astros are on a 56 win pace right.
Yep. Yeah. It's ugly. 139 games left in the season, and this is not looking great. Um, the bright spot, Jordan Alvarez. Really, I mean, by Sunday,
That's it.
he's led MLB in the homers and RBIs. He homered in all three games this series. Do you feel like Jordan is carrying the lineup, or is the lineup failing to cash in around him?
Well,
Is he It's exposing the lineup.
Well, Jordan, when you look at what Jordan did, he had 5 hits, he had 3 home runs, all right? He had 2 home runs and a double. I got him for 2 home runs, but 12 total bases. Uh, you know, he does, he and Altuve are the only guys that really hit and that you would expect. Those guys, what those guys do are exposing the fact that no one else is producing.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
they started off well.
Why
There's
are pitchers still throwing the ball to those guys right now? I just can't.
oh yeah,
I'm just beside myself. I can't figure it out.
and one
I
thing
mean,
I would
they
say
pitched
the
to they pitched to Jordan today with 2 guys on. He was the tying run, and they were still pitching to him. I just
well,
couldn't believe it.
yeah, the strikeouts are more than in the strikeouts for this series were about 24%. They are
Mhm.
seeing 4.5 pitches per plate appearance, which is better than it was last year. So that tells me they're seeing the approach is still there. That the whole team right now just feels like there's a cloud over their head, and it's like everybody's waiting for something bad to happen.
Yeah.
And if you do that, it will.
Well, and I guess that's probably the part that a lot of people that are calling for Joe Espada's head, or at least fussing about Joe Espada. This is the part of Joe Espada's job that a lot of people feel as though he's losing at, and that is the clubhouse. This isn't the first time we talked about Joe Espada and potentially losing the clubhouse. But I feel like there is some validity to that talking point of what is Joe Espada doing in the clubhouse, and why is this team feel like they're the the Oakland A's of a couple of years ago? There doesn't seem to be any fire, any urgency, anything that really kind of makes you feel like there's somebody in that clubhouse saying, "Guys, what the heck is going on? Let's do this. You're better than this. Get out there and put the bat on the ball, and let's move some runners over." You know,
Two things. Number one, you know, uh, Joe's not Dusty. Dusty would jerk a knot up people's backsides and say, "Let's get it together."
yeah,
The things the Astros we talked about a second ago don't have is they don't have a stable of minor leaguers so we can send somebody out to Sugarland and say, if you're not going to play, we're going to bring somebody in. A lot of I still think also there with all these injuries, they kept the head of the medical lady that's head of the medical team. She's the one person they didn't get rid of. Maybe she has to go too, and because they got rid of the field people, but maybe the approach is still the same.
yeah,
So because we're having all these, I don't know if you call them soft tissue injuries or what, but it just seems like we get guys that are going on the IL and they're staying on the IL.
yes,
Haters on the 60 day. Pena is out, and we saw last year when he got the rib injury. He got hit in the ribs. He was out
Mhm.
for a month, and I was surprised it took that long to come back. We're not casting dispersions, but that didn't seem when it happened like it was a 1 month injury.
Right. Well, now,
Yeah.
Joe Espada said that Joey Loperfido is going to be probably spending some time. They only put him on the 10-day, but his exact words were spending some time on the IL. There seems to be a common theme when it comes to how this team is prepared physically. This has been a trend over the last three
3 years,
years at least, for sure. 3 years. I
three
mean,
plus years anyway.
2022 they were pretty healthy, but you know, um, and it's a thing. I mean, Chandler Rome talks about it all the time. Well, good luck trying to get any information from the training staff or from anybody when it comes to injuries. And, you really just find out the breadth of it whenever they say, oh, well, guess what? Yeah, we put Loperfido on the 10-day IL. It wasn't just a, in-game tweak.
Well,
So it's
couple
an
of
issue that's always kind of been at the forefront of the Astros when it comes to, to physical disclosure, I guess.
yeah, the Tucker thing was the worst. He fouls a ball
Uh,
off his leg. Oh,
yeah.
it's a bruise. No, it's a broken leg.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's kind of like Monty Python and the Holy Grail with the Black Knights. It's just a flesh wound.
Yeah. Well, I mean, hey, look at the debacle that Carlos Correa dealt with after leaving the Astros. Nobody knew the extent of his injury while he was a Houston Astro, which again, it didn't really come up, but even still, he left the Astros and then all hell breaks loose because
Well, he
finally some
broke his foot.
disclosure came. Yeah, finally some
Yeah, he
disclosure
broke
came
his
out
foot
about it.
and he broke his foot at Lancaster.
Yeah.
He slid
Yep.
into third base. He broke his ankle, and so that's been following him around since.
Yep.
Um, but anyway, we can talk about this all night.
Yeah.
They're going to
We
Cleveland.
could.
They're going to Cleveland. The Astros are going to Cleveland. That's going to be a tough trip.
It'll be pretty
It's
brutal.
baseball is a funny deal. If you can, you go there. Like Cleveland came here last year on a 10 game slide. They left
Mhm.
here on a 3 game winning streak that took them to the Central Division Championship. The Astros have Arrighetti against Saccone. They've got Colton Gordon against Messick, and they've got Lance McCullers Jr. or Tanner Bybee. Let's
Yep.
see if we can see if it sure would be nice to have Spencer back up his start with another good one. God knows they need it. They need
It's yeah.
what the staff needs right now is somebody they can say, "All right, you're the dude."
Yep. Yep.
Who's
Absolutely.
gonna be the dude?
The Guardians are good at home, 7-3. So they've not been great lately. They're playing 500 ball. Their last 10, they're 5-5 over their last 10 games. 0 run differential. So the Guardians are a beatable team. The Astros have to put together some hits.
What the Guardians
Absolutely.
will do is they will play clean baseball.
Yes. Yep.
They will not beat themselves. They won't hit a lot. They'll pitch well, and they will not make the big error. And that's what the Astros they have to play clean ball, and
Absolutely.
that start with playing clean ball, and we'll just see what happens.
Yep.
Pretenders and
Yep.
contenders.
Pretenders and contenders. Hey, let's bounce around the league a little bit. I think you picked out 6 teams that we were going to chat about because these guys are there's some early season runs and some records of a few teams around the league that kind of raise a few eyebrows. So Wally pulled a couple of teams. We're going to do pretender or contender. Who do you want to start with, Wally?
Let's go with the Braves. The Braves have been my biggest surprise on the team because when you had the pitching they lost early in the season, it, I thought it was going to be a real tough year, and they've been by far the best in the AL East. They've got a 55 run differential in the positive way. The only team in the division has done it. They're a contender. So far I've been wrong, and they've really played well. The pitching has been outstanding. They're second in baseball in average batting average and OPS, scored first in runs. The pitching has been great. The guys like they bought Dubon over from the Astros, and he stepped in when Ha-Sung Kim got hurt. Ha-Sung Kim got hurt, and has played a credible shortstop. Is hitting about 358.
Yep.
The Braves pitching is first in ERA. It's second in WHIP. Guys like Drake Baldwin, Olson, and Matt Olson have pitched great. Sales pitched well. Bryce Elder has been the real surprise, and Iglesias, their closer, has got a 0.0 ERA. So um, they're a contender because that performance is not going to drop off. precipitous.
I'm buying the Braves. I'm buying the Braves as well. 15-7. Their run differential now is 57 as of tonight. That game is over. So 15-7 with a 5-game winning streak. Yeah, I'm buying the Braves too. It's not 55, 57. That run differential is not smoke. And I think that that's the
And if the
biggest reason
Braves
to buy them.
and if the Braves get into a brawl like they did, Walt Weiss is like an old style wrestler, and he took down that dude yesterday like it was WWE. Last
Man,
week,
that was
that was
that was
classic.
something. That was something for sure. Absolutely.
That was
All
great.
right. I think the next one you had on the list was the Pittsburgh Pirates.
Yeah, Pirates have a 22. Pirates have a plus 25 run differential. Yeah, for them it's all about their pitching. The pitching is going to be has been good and should be good. They're third in ERA, and interestingly enough, 14th in baseball in WHIP, which tells me is that these guys know how to pitch with guys on base. They know how to get themselves out of trouble.
Yeah.
You've got Skeens, you've got Mitch Keller. They've got a closer by committee, and they're going to be a contender. When we say contenders, we're not saying they're going to be a playoff team per se, but they're going to be there. I expect
Mhm.
the Pirates to go out and try to find a closer because they've
Yeah,
got
I think
they and because
yeah.
they've got having bringing Connor Griffin up is big in a couple of ways. A, the kid seems like he's ready. And secondly, it settles everybody down. You can have, I think IKF plays for them still.
Mhm.
And that means he can move around like Dubon did.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm buying the Pirates too. I think in, what we said on the last pod, which the best division in baseball right now, surprisingly, the National League Central, which was not something that either of us had on our bingo card.
No,
They're not just surviving close games and just winning close games either. You said it, a 25 plus 25 run differential. That says that they've actually been the better team more often than not. And I think that when you look at what they've got going on, um, it's a team that's got some resilience and they've got some roster functionality. I think this team is young. They're hungry. They've got schemes for now, and they have a reason to win. And I think that I'm buying the Pittsburgh Pirates.
they also
Absolutely.
brought in some vets with the chip on
Yeah.
their shoulder.
Yeah, they sure did. They sure did. And to sign with Pittsburgh is kind of one of those things that, as a veteran, just might not have been the first choice despite the money. But people are seeing there's something different going on up there in Pittsburgh, and I like to see it. I like to see it. All right, the next one I think we have on the list is the Reds of the city of Cincinnati, Ohio. Pretender or contender?
I've got them as a pretender, although Tito might change that. They're last in baseball in average. They're last in OPS. They're second to last in runs. They're sixth in ERA, but 19th in WHIP, which says they're working out of a lot of trouble.
Hmm.
Only two guys they've got that are really uh, playing are you got Sal Stewart and Ellie De La Cruz to an extent. Average isn't great, but the slug is good, so his OPS is good. Gino Suarez has played okay. The pitchers have been good. Emilio Pagan has not been great as a closer, and now he's out with a hamstring issue they think is going to be not that big a deal, but just they're going to need to make a serious move or two to spark up the offense and uh, and score more runs because they you can't be the last place run scoring team and expect to make the playoffs.
Yeah, I think this is the flimsiest first place team in the MLB right now. I think are they still first right now? I
Yeah, they're
guess
still
after
first.
tonight, they're still
They
in
won. They
first
won
after
today.
tonight. Yeah. And so, but that negative run differential. it kind of pause as to, are these guys for real? So I have them listed as a pretender, but dangerous. I think this is a team that, they won three straight. They started 8-2 on the road. I don't think they're a fraud, but I don't think that there's enough foundation there for these guys to continue at the top of the National League Central, which again, you've got quite a few other teams in there that I think are serious contenders too. Yep. All right. The next two are from the AL West. These are two that I think we talk about kind of often, and probably will be talking about more often throughout the season here. Let's start with the Texas Rangers. Pretender or contender?
Yeah. Yeah. I think the Rangers are going to end up winning the division. Um, I had them at 81 and 81, but, neither, well, I say they're going to win the division. The Mariners are not dead yet, but the Rangers are definitely a contender. They're taking the place of the Astros, really, if you want to be quite frank. Middle of the road, a little above average and run and offense, well above average in pitching. And they have guys that really hadn't hit. Corey Seager hadn't started hitting yet. Wyatt Langford's a 240 hitter. They picked up Mackenzie Gore from the Nationals, and he's been real good. And DeGrom is doing what DeGrom does. They're another team that's going to need to get a closer. They don't have one. Jacob Junis is their leader with 3 saves. Mattering of saves everywhere else, but they're going to need somebody at the back of that bullpen to anchor it, and so they can build around.
So I've got them as pretender but dangerous as well.
I got
It's
him
a
as a
decent.
contender. I've got
Okay,
him as a
yeah,
contender.
I've got them pretender but dangerous. I think a 10-run differential. They just lost. They've gone 4-6 in their last 10. They just dropped 2 of 3 to Seattle. Like you said, they're basically league average right now. There's some decent underlying math. You brought up the pitching. You brought up some not quite yet hitting that could potentially give this team an edge. But I think that when you still look at the division and you look at who all is playing the way that they're playing, I still don't think that the Rangers have what it takes to run away and to take it. I still think that Seattle's the one to beat, and obviously the Astros aren't doing it. But dropping 2 of 3, dropping 2 out of 3 in Seattle and 2 out of 4, splitting a series with the A's. Um, I mean, they lost 2 out of 3 to the Dodgers as well, but everybody's losing to the Dodgers right now. Yeah, I don't know. There's nothing special about the Rangers that make me say, oh, this team can take the division. So speaking of the other guys in the division, we've got the Oakland, Sacramento, Las Vegas A's. Um, whatever we're calling them these days.
Okay, and
Um,
I've got them as a pretender, and I'll give you one reason they're a pretender. Do you know who's leading them in saves? Joel Kuhnel. Remember Joel Kuhnel? He was like he was one of the guys that looked like he was a bag, an airline baggage guy when he'd come off the come off the and he's bounced it bled, good for him. He's bounced around and he always seems to end up on a team and he's got a pension and all in all. And
yeah.
the A's pitching is looking at a 4.71 ERA. That's why I say they're a pretender. Guys like Jeffrey Springs has been good. Aaron Savali's been good, but you got to have more than 2, and Severino's not doing it. He's got an ERA. He's got a 6 ERA. Nick Kurtz has not started hitting yet. Anytime you come up with a second year guy, you wonder, has the league studied film over the winter, and have they figured him out a little bit? And he's got to adjust. I think you're pretender but dangerous. Yeah, yeah, they could get hot. I just don't think I think the Rangers and the Mariners can be at the top of the division. I think the A's are going to be competitive. I think the Angels will fall off, and it's going to be between the Angels and the Astros to see who's in fourth place right now. Based on how people are playing right now, I don't buy the Angels being 500 right now.
No, I don't either, and I think the A's are a pretender. When you look at their record versus the quality of their wins, this is the clearest mismatch in the division right now. I mean, a minus 19 run differential despite sitting tied for first place in the division. Um, it's this is not a team that I think has the profile across the board that says that they will contend. So I'm not buying the A's, the record and the quality of wins with that minus 19 run differential. It's the same as the Astros minus 19 run differential. So it's they're finding ways to win games that are way too close and they're losing blowouts. So I'm not buying the A's. Not buying the A's.
It is early. It is early, but when you see the negative run differential over time, that eventually seems to come back to the buzzards come to roost.
Yep. Yep. All right, the AL East. Atop of the AL East in second place is the Tampa Bay Rays with a 12-9 record. I don't know. They've won enough to matter, but they haven't outscored their opponents enough to for me to fully trust. This is another one that's I kind of got the A's vibes from the Rays as
Yeah,
well, and
I
so
was
for me,
about to say,
they're a pretender.
yeah, we can just buzz through the Rays. I say the Rays are pretender for the same reason that the A's are pretender.
Yep. Yep. Their 6 game winning streak. During that winning streak, they only had a +2 win differential. So you win 6 games and you only come out of that with a +2 win differential. I don't know.
Run differential.
Yep. All right, man. Well, you got any final thoughts? What we're going into Cleveland. We've already kind of talked about what that's probably going to end up looking like. We don't have any news as far
Yeah,
as anybody coming back from injuries. It'll be interesting to see. You've got three of who have been your kind of better pitchers as of late with Arrighetti, Colton Gordon, and um, Lance McCullers Jr.
I I think league wide there are several teams that are liable to push the panic button and make either front office or manager moves. And we need to keep a look at, and we can cover this more on the next show. You've got Kansas City, who is supposed to be who is supposed to have a real good team. They're playing poorly. The Mets are playing poorly. The Astros are playing poorly. Those three teams in particular, I look at them. Maybe the Red Sox, but for some reason, Alex Cora has Teflon. Um,
He's
but
got
those
third
three
on
are,
somebody up there.
oh man. Well, because you look, they make the playoffs, but since they won the World Series in 18, they've been nothing special.
Yeah.
Um,
Yep.
he's been there a while. It's been kind of the same thing, but look for the Astros, the Mets, the Royals. Keep your eyes on them when it comes down to front office and field manager moves. Royals might surprise you and be the first one to make that move because I mean they they've got a minus 32 run differential for a team that was expected to contend for a playoff spot.
Yep.
That's they, they're worse than the White Sox in run differential.
Yep. You see the Blue Jays making any decisions?
They're fine.
Okay. Yep.
They're fine.
Yep.
I think you look at Schneider. They've had a lot of people are hurt, but they're 4-6, but they're 4.5 out. Unless that ship were to take on serious water, they won't make a move.
Yep. Very good. Well, we'll break down a little bit more of what's going on around the league when we catch up next time. Hopefully, we'll have some better news about the Astros road trip to the city of Cleveland, Ohio. Don't forget to subscribe, guys. Give us a like. Hey, leave us a comment even on Spotify there. Tell us what you're looking for as far as the show. I'm Ryan for my man Wally. This is another episode of Dirt Diamond Sports Talk. Go Strokes.